Back at it again, RIC in the place to be. Rick Serritella checking in from the All Access Football headquarters, back from our training camp tour, the first leg, that is. Keep it locked to allaccessfootball.com. We're going to actually be on location at the New York Giants and New York Jets scrimmage this Wednesday with on-location reports. We'll also be on the game Saturday, I believe, Jets, Giants. Dan Orlando will be on site for that one as well. Hey, before I welcome in my co-host, Dan Orlando, I just want to remind everybody you're tuned in to the All Access Football Network. We are home to Real Football Talk and also home to many, many shows that you may be interested in, including Scouting the League with Neil Stratton and Roderick David. Make sure you check those guys out. They were down on location at the Personnel and Recruiting Symposium. If you like behind the scenes football scouting, how the sausage is made, those guys have got you covered there. Also, the QB Huddle debuted this week with a very large applause. We thank everybody who tuned in for that show. So please spread the word and keep it locked for the All Access Football Daily Show, hosted by yours truly. Buckle up, everybody. It's coming September 1st, the live show, 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. As soon as we get back from the All Access Football Training Camp Tour, we got the first leg in the books. We were down at James Madison, Tennessee Titans. We got in Vanderbilt Commodores, North Carolina Tar Heels, the Panthers and Browns preseason game. We'll be on site for the Giants and Jets this week, and then we'll be heading out for our third leg after we keep it local. And keep it locked. AllAccessFootball.com. Your home for real football talk. This is New and Blue. Welcome in our third episode. Sorry about the lapse last week. I was on the road. We weren't able to give you a record, but we are back for the third episode this week. We'll have you locked and loaded each and every week of the New York Football Giants season. And we discussed the new and blue players, whether that's rookies, free agent signings, and boy, there was a lot of new players that made a big impact in that New York Giants 34-25 win as they get ready to rumble in New York. First with the Buffalo Bills, now with the New York Jets. A lot of local flavor. We bring in our local beat guy, Dan Orlando, to the show. Dan, how we doing, my man?
Doing well. It's good to have preseason football back.
Preseason football, 1-0 in the standings. It doesn't count for the regular season, but it counts for something. And we talked about the optimism and hope that Jackson Dart brings, and I guess we have to start with the young quarterback, Dan.
Absolutely. Preseason step one. Step two, step three, step four, we're going to get to down the line. But you want to clear the first hurdle so you can get there. If you've been a fan of the Giants for a while, you remember that Daniel Jones' preseason debut looked fantastic. So no one is rushing out to get a Jackson Dart tattoo just yet, I don't think. But he looked good. He was poised. His best throw of the day was that 20-plus, almost 30-yard bomb to the end zone with a perfect placement to little Jordan Humphrey, another new guy on his team. And he did it under pressure. There was a guy in his face that just had a free release at him. So there was a lot of things you saw from him to be excited about, especially when you're comparing to Giants quarterbacks of recent history, what they've been able to do. He even looked good on screen passes with the right amount of touch, the right amount of poise. He did not look rattled. He did not panic. If you were looking for, a reason to check off that first step to feel good about Jackson Dart, to see what Brian Dable sees, there's nothing that happened Saturday that's going to make you go, well, I don't know, maybe this guy's not going to work out.
Yeah, 12-19, 154 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, very efficient. I heard Brian Daboll say that he plays with a defensive mindset, right? And he was just so jacked up and locked in all week long, ready to go for this start. I guess the one criticism, if you wanted to harp on something, would be just the hits that he absorbed when scrambling, right? I think there was about 3 times where he kind of took a hit, and he's going to have to learn to protect himself a little bit more. I heard him in the post-game comments kind of joke about, Daboll likes that kind of stuff. But in the National Football League, young man, you cannot play with reckless abandon for 18-plus weeks and survive a full regular season.
Couldn't agree more. And that's one thing I got from the game where I felt, hey, I'd like to see him slide here and there. But that's something that should be the easiest thing to teach out of anything else. So
Unless your name is Daniel Jones.
Unless
he never quite caught on to that concept.
He didn't, and I think people were okay with it because it was better than him trying to throw the football. So, but with Jackson Dart, you saw a lot of things that you got to be excited about. Again, most of the rookie quarterbacks across the league had good outings. I know the Saints maybe can't say that right now, but even Shedeur Sanders, Mr. Fifth Round, he had an up and down game with a lot of ups. So, again, this is step one. Let's see though, and we can talk about this. Russell Wilson looked good in his one drive. But, are the RPMs there on that ball? Is this going to be a guy that's still playing at a high level in November? We're going to probably see this year if Jackson Dart is going to be playing in the NFL like at a high level, because he's going to play this year at some point. So we'll see this week if he gets the first team reps against the Jets just to see what he does.
Yeah, you mentioned Tyler Shuck and the Saints, the Week 5 matchup for the New York Giants. If they're
the one game favorite.
Yeah, it could be a good prime time situation for Jackson Dart. Now, hey, Tommy DeVito is the only quarterback that's back. They're all new in blue in that quarterback room, and they all played. Russell Wilson, maybe not as long, but everybody had a touchdown. Tommy Cutlets, and of course, Jameis Winston, who also played. I mean, is he going to be on the team? Is he going to be a coach? Is he going to be a mascot? Is he going to be traded? What's the role for Jameis Winston here?
This is such a unique role because he's essentially the third string quarterback, but in reality, he's not really a third like the way that Tommy DeVito was a third for years. This is a very capable player. Honestly, a player that if they hadn't gotten Russell Wilson, I think you'd feel okay with him starting a couple games. The frustrating thing with Jameis Winston is that if you were able to take Wilson's decision-making and pair it with Jameis Winston's physical talent, you would have a quarterback that has you saying, look, Jackson Dart, you're going to sit longer than Jordan Love and be fine with it. That's the frustrating part. He has the talent. He has the arm strength. It's just he just doesn't turn down throwing windows. He's the I've heard this out there. I don't want to take credit for it. He's the anti-Daniel Jones, and he is. So this is a guy that, he's going to do some interesting things. He had, Jameis on brand. He scrambled, and he had a nice run close to the end zone, and he did this weird juke that only Jameis could do, and it was entertaining. This is a guy that's going to be on the team. He's going to be solidly quarterback 2 next year. And this is a guy that's going to be a weird third quarterback if Jackson Dart continues to impress and is officially quarterback 2.
Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, New in Blue, episode 3. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball and offensive line. We got a heated competition, it looks like.
We do. A lot of Giants fans were maybe wondering if James Hudson II was going to be the right call at swing tackle, but a lot of other Giants fans this offseason were just happy to see that they addressed swing tackle. He did not look great. He actually derailed the first drive of the game. He didn't look terrible. If fans who have watched Evan Neal for years have seen worse. He wasn't Nate Solder, but he didn't look great. He's in there for Andrew Thomas. For those who don't know, Andrew Thomas is not playing yet this summer as he rehabs an injury from last year. He derailed what was a good opening drive. They got deep. I think they were on the 27, I want to say, of the Bills' territory on the opening drive, and then he had 2 back-to-back penalties that essentially ruined the drive. They had to settle for a field goal, and that's just the type of thing you don't want to see. On the flip side of that, another new player, a 5th-round pick, a player that's in the running to be the steal of the draft if all works out, Marcus Bowe. This is a guy that the Giants openly said they considered taking earlier in the draft and opted to take Cam Scatterbo in round 4. We're shocked he was still there in round 5. The big concern with him is, does he have the size and the strength to hang in the NFL? And if Saturday is any indication on that, he does. He looked great. Brian Baldinger was raving about him. And this is a guy that kept the quarterback clean, was able to hang with, big time competition. One thing about that offensive line position, I know the blitz stunts might not be as complicated as the regular season, but you're still got to, you're going up against guys who are coming at you. It's not half speed at all, and he hung in there. So if you're a Giants fan, you have to be really encouraged what you saw from Marcus Bowe.
Yeah, that's someone we talked about at quite length last episode, and I was down there at the Senior Bowl with Baldy, and we loved everything Marcus Bowe brought to the table. He took a lot of reps at guard because NFL scouts were skeptic about that arm length, but didn't seem to be an issue there in this first preseason game. And we said it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, it's going to be hard to keep him out of the starting lineup. This is a guy, and he irritates the heck out of you. He just gets under the opponent's skin.
Yeah.
He plays through the whistle, right? And just somebody who competes, and he's going to raise the intensity. Like, he's bringing that kind of intensity on a daily basis in practice. And Marcus Bowe, 49 reps. James Hudson, 48 reps. So we'll continue to monitor that situation there on the offensive side of the ball. And then, we should discuss, Dan, the backfield situation. Obviously, you mentioned Cam Scatterby, the rookie. They have Tyrone Tracy, the rookie from last year, and then Dante Miller, who was a rookie last year and had a stellar preseason training camp before the injury, is back on the roster and got quite a few reps there on the Bills game.
He did, and he's that type of player where this time of year it's so much fun. It's a chess game. It's a lot of moving pieces. He has a lot of talent. He has bursts that arguably no other running back on the roster has right now. And you look at it and go, look, do the Giants keep 4 running backs? Because you have Devin Singletary there. He's a very good third option. He's a good veteran. I don't see them parting ways with him. Tyrone Tracy still has that fumble issue, it looks like. So, number one, he's going to go into the season as a starting back. But, still, you might want other options. Cam Scatterbo's hurt right now. If they keep 4, right now it would be Turbo Miller. This is a guy that he had 80 yards receiving because they hit him in the screen game, and he turned a third and long. It was either 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 18, and he made it. Like, the Giants couldn't convert 3rd and 2s last year. So it was impressive to see a guy do that. Now, where the chess game comes in is that his path to the roster really might not be competing with other running backs. It's that, he's probably going to be a good returner if they give him some looks at that in the next 2 preseason games. There's a wide receiver who right now is the number 1 returning option. Plus, they brought back Gunnar Olszewski, who's another returning option. So you're going to look at that and go, is he going to just not make the roster because they got to put people at other places? And then you might say, well, do they need those receivers in other spots? I don't know that they do. So it's going to get really tough for him. I think Montrell Washington, who's going to be the backup slot receiver if Smith-Marsette doesn't make the team. Smith-Marsette is right now penciled in to be the number 1 kick returner. If Montrell Washington continues to inspire confidence like he did for most of Saturday, maybe that makes it easier for Turbo Miller. Worst case scenario, they're going to try to sneak him on the practice squad, but somebody else might want to pick him up.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marsette. Like, he looks pretty locked in with that return role. And you mentioned Little Jordan Humphrey, who had a touchdown. Like, that, I think, makes it a little bit of a numbers game. Like Dante Turbo Miller, Little Jordan Humphrey. Like, they're going to get creative there with those 47 through 53 man roster spots. There's going to be some tough decisions to be had.
The wide receiver situation right now, because Jalen Hyatt's injured. So the Giants actually didn't have any of their deep threats for Saturday's game. Jalen Hyatt's injured, and he's kind of the stopgap in all this, even when he's healthy, because he's a guy that doesn't do much for you other than the one thing, which is sprint down the field better than maybe even Neighbors. But he doesn't really do anything else, and he doesn't contribute on special teams. So he's getting a roster spot as of now, but then you have Little Jordan Humphrey, you have Smith-Marsette, you have Montrell Washington. Something has to give, and there's always that surprise cut every camp. My feeling like right now, Smith-Marsette maybe is that guy if Turbo Miller shows them that they can't get rid of him, or if Montrell Washington does the same thing. So there's a lot to watch on the receiver depth chart right now.
And then the other position we're monitoring is tight end. We mentioned Thomas Vidone, 30 reps. He got more action than any tight end on the roster.
Yeah, he had the 2-point conversion. It was the Jameis Winston. The new guy. He wasn't really on the team last year. He got hurt in pregame warmups week 1, but he's back in the fold. Fidone actually on that play, he ran kind of a shady route. It wasn't a great route. He looked very uncomfortable out there in that play, but it was a situation where he's just so big. He put his hands up, he waved at Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston just put it as high as possible, and he just plucked it out of the air. So this is a guy, Fidone, where I think if you ask the Giants, the Giants know Bellinger is probably the better all-around tight end, and I think they plan on keeping Bellinger, and they plan on keeping Manhurts. But Fidone's a guy where I think is going to force them to keep 4 tight ends because I don't think he stays on the practice squad. I think he's a unique player that somebody who doesn't have that deep of a tight end room is going to be willing to take a shot on. I don't think he's going to be a burner. I don't think he could ever be a guy that challenges for the number 1 spot, but he really looks like a great red zone target, a great option to have. And for a 7th-round pick, that's all you can ask for on the first preseason game.
Yeah, I think he could definitely add to the package on offense. A little 12 personnel could come in handy there. We shall see.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else on the offensive side before we shift gears to defense?
No, not really. No.
All right, Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, you're tuned in to New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast. This is our 3rd episode, bringing you all the intel, all the info, all the analysis on the new New York Football Giants players. We got rookies, we got free agent signings. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about some positions they may look to address, whether that's scouring the waiver wire for some training camp cuts or some of these potential street free agents. But first, we got to go to defense, where nobody made more noise with the 3 reps that he received than Abdul Carter Jr. The local media is ready to get him fitted for a yellow jacket and Canton and everything, Dan. I mean, oh my God, hold the presses.
It was, I don't want to say ruined, but it was the 2nd pressure, I believe. And he had the guy dead to rights. And Mitch Trubisky, of all people. And Trubisky put a spin move on him like, you would expect from a high level and got away from him. But it would have been great if he just laid him out there, right? But that aside, the guy had 6 total snaps. 3 were passing snaps, 3 pressures. On Deion Dawkins, 2 of them were on Deion Dawkins, one of the better offensive tackles to ever play this game. It's way too early to crown anybody, but if you wanted to feel good about your 3rd overall pick, I mean, just the athleticism that Abdul Carter shows, I'm just very impressed. I can't wait. My biggest fear is him just getting hurt at this point, but he looks like an absolute star, a guy that's going to be the best pass rusher on the team from day one. And that's not a slight to Burns or Thibodeau. That's just the reality. He had the 3 pressures. Dex isn't even on the field, and they have a weak defensive tackle unit outside of Dex. So you got to be excited. One other thing I do want to mention about him, when Dart had his touchdown throw, the first person, one of the first, if not the first person to congratulate him on the sidelines was Abdul Carter. And you love to see that out of a team, out of a player. Different vibe on the Giants sidelines this year than in years past, and Abdul Carter was a big part of that.
Yeah, 6 reps, I should say. 3 pass rush reps and 3 reps against the run. All right. Corey Durden is a guy that I'm keeping an eye on. 17 reps. I like the inside-outside versatility that he brings to the table. Paulson Adebo got a little bit of run just to get his feet wet there. But Deonte Banks got a lot of run and a little bit of a raise of the eyebrows there.
Yeah, Deonte Banks, the inheritance of Wink Martindale, I think, as that they're looking at it now. For those who haven't followed along in recent years, Wink wanted Deonte Banks badly, and he's now been very much divorced from the team. Banks has struggled. He had flashes his rookie year, was put in probably too big of a role last year as their unquestioned cornerback 1. Struggled mightily. He is a very sticky corner. He plays very well in press man coverage, but he does not turn his head around. It's maddening. He will not turn his head around. He's going to cause penalties. He's going to fail to make plays on the ball that, quite frankly, he did the hard part. He should be able to make the plays. He's in a real battle for his spot. Cordell Flott, who's injured, who's a 3rd-round pick from 2022, is legitimately challenging for that number 2 cornerback spot. And Banks has not taken the job and ran with it. He was playing through the first half, and he didn't look like, he was a former 1st-round pick 3 years ago. He's out there with guys who might not make a roster, and he's not playing that well. Like, he's not dominating them. He's not shutting them down. He had 1 good play, and that was a ticky-tack ref would have called that pass interference. In fact, it was also ruled a catch at first, and it was overturned. Rough day. Carl Banks was talking about his body language. If you were looking for reasons to not be optimistic about the Giants, he would be the reason, I think, coming out of this game. He's going to be your quarterback too, most likely, and this could be an area they have to upgrade somewhere else during the offseason.
So cornerback, a reason for concern. And then we mentioned last episode, Elijah Chapman, his roster spot could be in jeopardy. I saw Jordan Riley get some play and make some plays there. And I just talked about Corey Durden, but I mean, what's the odds of these guys actually making the 53-man roster, Dan?
The defensive tackle rotation outside of Dexter Lawrence is very up in the air. Darius Alexander, the 3rd-round pick, really struggled. He looked like a nothing out there. I hate using that term. He was not a plus. He was just out there, and he wasn't really making an impact against third stringers. This wasn't him getting run as a first-team guy. That might be because he started slow. He was injured this spring. I think he started training camp a little slow, but not what you wanted to see out of him. There was a chance he was going to be a starter heading into camp. Elijah Chapman's another guy where, how does he fit into this rotation? Same with Durden, some of those other former UDFAs. Riley didn't really make that much of an impact. I will say, Roy Robertson Harris, who's had a slow camp, had a good game. DJ Davidson, who might be the backup nose tackle, had a good game. He had a flash at the very least. Defensive tackle, too, is another area where if there's a good veteran that hits the market on cutdown day, again, the Giants are third in the waiver wire order, I could see them trying to make an upgrade there, as someone who can come in and be that third or fourth guy. And that would likely push a guy like Chapman back to the practice squad.
All right. We will keep an eye on that competition as we move into Jets week. Joint scrimmage practices Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll be down there on Wednesday. You'll be at the game this weekend, and we will see the encore act for the Big Blue rookies and new blue players. What are you expecting to see, Dan?
I'm expecting to see the starters play again. I'm expecting to see Jackson Dart get a significant amount of run. I think all four quarterbacks will get a chance, but it might just be the three if they want to make sure Jameis Winston gets enough time out there. More what I'm looking at in terms of what position battles seems to have changed, between weeks. Like I mentioned before, is Dante Miller the first guy back there on kick return? So they just want to see if he can do that, and are they going to prioritize him over a backup specials wide receiver? Are we going to see if Jalen Hyatt's healthy enough to play? Is he going to come out here and show all of this progress he supposedly made in the offseason? So there's a lot of, and if Cordell Flott can get healthy, and I absolutely have to mention this, and I should have mentioned this earlier, Evan Neal did not play in this game. He's injured, and this is a guy that if he can get on the field, in theory, should have a shot to be either, the fourth best offense or the fifth best offensive lineman or the first guy off the bench on the interior. And we need to see him take snaps on the interior. So if he can play, I'm going to have a lot of attention on him to see if he holds up, because that could be a big, big thing for the Giants if he can hold up. So there's a lot to watch on offense. Defense, honestly, I think once the starters come off the field, it's going to be rough to watch those second stringers. They were terrible against Buffalo. I don't think that's going to change. So it's going to be mostly, if you're looking for positive, watch the offense. That's my projection.
Yeah, but you know what? I think you might see the starters play more against the Jets, right?
We'll see.
You're going to see a little bit longer runway.
The joint practices make that iffy because they're going to play a lot of the starters this week. For those who don't know, they're doing joint practices with the Jets. It's essentially there's fans there, but it's a controlled preseason game where they're actually going to hit live action. So that might limit. I think the starters are going to play, but they might, for example, in a world without the joint practices, would Russell Wilson maybe play a full quarter? Sure, but they might say, hey, he was out there for 2 joint practices this week. Let's pull back. So to be honest, that could go either way. But I do expect if a starter's healthy, if Darius Slayton's healthy, he's going to play. Malik Neighbors is healthy, he's going to play. So the Giants aren't going to pull punches in this game.
Yeah, traditionally, they've usually played the starters longer against the Jets, but it's usually the third game, if I recall. But I guess with the condensed preseason, we'll see how that plays out. But I'll tell you this. Aaron Glenn is coming in with a chip. And that team has got an attitude, and I'm expecting tempers to flare. I can't wait to see the skirmishes because I expect to see plenty early and often. Like, this is going to be an intense week.
I agree. I expect a fight at practice at some point. We're going to be getting that Twitter notification that somebody threw somebody to the ground. It's probably going to be James Hudson. He's been doing that in practice against his own team. I think there's going to be a couple fights.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of earthquakes in New Jersey while I've been on the road. We might feel another one this week with the Giants and the Jets colliding. So any parting shots, final thoughts, words to the listening audience, Dan, before we get out of here?
Final thoughts. I do think this is going to be a very interesting draft class for the Giants. And I think this is a compelling UDFA class as well. There's going to be first-year players on this team or new to the Giants players that make an impact this year. If you're just even somewhat interested, tune in against the Jets. The Giants are playing their players that they want to see. There's guys who are fighting to make the roster that I wouldn't have projected a month ago that are making legitimate case. So it is a fun time to be a New York Giants fan.
Yeah, we'll come back next week and talk about it. Maybe we'll have a little fun with the 53-man roster projection. I think the picture will come into a little bit more focus after the Jets preseason game, and we'll see how many spots truly are up for grabs on that 53-man roster spot. So listen, you want to keep it locked to New and Blue, a New York Giants podcast. Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella will be here all season long, as will QB Huddle, as will Scouting the League, as will the All Access Football Daily Show. We've got other shows that we're working on bringing you to the All Access Football platform. But every day you log on, there's something new for everyone. If you love the NFL draft and everything pigskin, we bring you real football talk, real analysis, boots on the ground, scouting intel, and check it out. We got our Tennessee Titans report. You know, Dan mentioned the rookies looked good. Cam Ward looked good. I thought Quinn Ewers looked pretty darn good in preseason action. Jackson Dart. I mean, this could be, who knows, maybe a fantastic rookie quarterback class. We shall see how it all pans out. We'll be here each and every week, every step of the way. Please chime in, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know if you have any questions. At some point, we'll get to a mailbag in season. Maybe we'll get that going. But listen, we love feedback. We love getting interactive with it. And who knows, we might be taking this live pretty soon. So buckle up, hunker down. Dan Orlando, Rick Serritella, and we'll catch you next week, everybody.
Thank you.